Hi everyone, my name is Kathryn Soley and this is 1-800-CALL-KATHRYN. I'm looking forward to taking your calls today, and let's just jump right in and hear from our first caller.
Hi Kathryn, I'm calling to ask a very simple question, and it is, why has Jarrett returned to my life at this point? Why has he chosen to cross the bridge to reconnection? And what is the nature and flow of our connection moving forward? What is the essential nature of our connection? My name is Jennifer. Thank you.
Okay, Jennifer. So this is like a pretty classic tarot type question. And I was actually not going to answer it on the show just because it's very specific to, well, I don't know. I guess I feel like listeners may have a harder time, or this is what I thought anyway, connecting to this reading because we don't have any details. Like if you're just getting a reading from me from my website, you don't have to give me any details at all. Like actually my preferred way to give a reading is to go in completely blind, like not even have a question and just give a reading to someone. But for the show, it helps to have a little bit of context, I think, for the listeners, for people that are listening who are not Jennifer or myself. But for whatever reason this morning when I was picking up the calls for the show, I was like, we'll do this one. We'll see how this goes. So we'll see how this goes. So the question is, why is Jarrett returned to Jennifer's life? And Jennifer, I'm not criticizing you. You didn't do anything wrong with this question at all. Like I said, it's a really typical kind of question that I'll get for people looking for a reading. But I think we've all had people that come and go through our lives. We don't know the details of who Jarrett is, but I think maybe we've all had Jarretts in our lives, people that, come and go. So let's see what we have here. So we have the Six of Pentacles, the King of Swords, and the Seven of Swords. I'm just noticing for all the episodes in our readings, we're having a lot of repeat cards. It's this happens sometimes when I'm giving readings. Certain cards will show up more often during periods of time, and then they're not as common, and it seems like there's sort of themes that come and go with the readings, and it doesn't matter what deck it is that I'm using. It's like the cards show up regardless of the deck. So skeptical-minded people, smart, good to be skeptical, but it's not because like the cards are sticking or something. It's just happens sometimes. Because I think we've had all of these cards show up before. So also, in regards to this question, the way that I do tarot, and I've talked about this in previous episodes too, is that I feel that the readings people get the most out of the readings if they look at it as it's about you and your inner experience. I don't think that as a reader I can tell you about anybody else. I don't think I can tell you about people outside of yourself. I don't think that I can really predict the future or, do fortune telling in that sort of way. I think that I'm personally best as a reader by reflecting back things that you already know, probably to some extent. I find that tarot is kind of like it's a mirror of ourselves back to ourselves. And I frankly question a lot of the way that tarot is popularly done in terms of looking at the cards literally instead of symbolically, looking at them as fortune telling, telling you about people outside of yourself. I don't think that those readings are that accurate, and I don't think that they're that helpful. I know that that will ruffle some feathers by me saying that, but I just think people get so much more out of the readings if you first and foremost look at them as they are about you and your inner experience, and the cards are all symbolic, they're not literal. So the Six of Pentacles, when I see this in relationship to this reading, I think about the give and take. So I don't know, what the connection with this person is. Is this someone, when I see that card in the context of this reading, my question is there some sort of like karmic thing that's needing to be made right? Is there something where you're needing to make amends, or he's needing to make amends? There's something that's coming into balance in the way that you're relating to one another. Is there something you're learning from him? Is there something that he's learning from you, and vice versa? And looking at that context, like what is being exchanged between you and Jarrett? With the King of Swords, the swords are related to the way that we think. And the King of Swords is, a master of the mind. And so when the King of Swords shows up, I think about this part of ourselves that is masterful in our thoughts, in our minds. We live in a world where, oh man, people's minds are really like, this is like a plea to anybody watching this. Protect your attention span. Protect your mind. Don't fall down these addiction rabbit holes of swiping on social media where your attention span goes. Protect your attention span. It is precious. You need it in order to do anything worthwhile in life. Have an attention span. So we live in a world where people's minds are getting more and more worn down, to put it in one way. But the King of Swords, he's able to see things clearly. He's able to see things logically, but he's not cold. He's not unfeeling. If the King of Swords is out of balance, then he becomes unfeeling. If he's balanced, then he takes the emotions into account. He takes everything into account, and he makes decisions. He operates in the world from a place of clarity of mind. And so this part within yourself, the King of Swords is an aspect of your own self. Are you seeing the situation clearly? Are you seeing this relationship clearly? Are there areas where you might be blinded by emotion? Are there areas where you might be blinded by past wounds, by past experiences with Jarrett? I see in my yard there is a little cat, a little feral cat that we've named Tammy Sue. I see her walking, doing something suspicious out there. You guys can't see her. I don't know why I'm telling you. But, and then we have the Seven of Swords. When I see the Seven of Swords come up to me, this is a card where, is there something that you are trying to sneak in this situation? Is there something here where you're like trying to get away with something but you actually know better? Is there something within this relationship where you're repeating old patterns for whatever reason? You know, sometimes we can get back into connection, back into relationships with people, and we just go right, even though the things that were the downfall in the past, you know, we just get right back into those patterns with people. Sometimes I have dreams at night where someone from my past, whether a friend or a romantic partner, they'll show up in my dream and like we'll be getting along now, or things seem like they're repaired, and then they come over and I'm like, oh no, what have I done? Like I'm just getting right back into the old pattern with this person. I gotta stop this. And that can be obviously true in waking life too. So overall with this experience with Jarrett, you know, looking at what are you learning from one another? What are you teaching to one another? What's the give and take? In my sort of way of thinking, the language that I would use, I would say, what are the karmic forces at play between you two? Are you guys wrapping something up? Are you working something out? Is it just now, like in the past, maybe it wasn't the right time, but now you've both kind of grown and there's some room for balance, or some room to like put things right in this relationship? With the King of Swords and the Seven of Swords, it's like, make sure that you are thinking clearly and you're not getting bogged down, getting overwhelmed, getting clouded, getting confused by fears, by desires, by emotions. You know, a lot of times, I don't know what the nature of your relationship is. It doesn't matter for the reading, really. I'm making an assumption with my mind, because this is usually why people ask for tarot readings, is that this is romantic, like former crush or partner in some way. And if it's not, it doesn't matter. The same thing applies. But sometimes, you know, we can hold on to an idea that we have about a person, an idea that we have about what could be or what was supposed to be, and then we're not seeing the reality clearly. And this goes for desires. Like I see this a lot. If you guys can imagine, the majority of readings that I do are for either love life questions. You know, when people, you can, by the way, if you didn't know, you can book a reading from me on my website, a private, you know, not for the show, personal reading. And I've given thousands, really, of readings in my life. And out of all of those readings that I've done, vast majority love or work. It's one of those two things. And so in those love situations, it's often either we're projecting a desire onto the relationship, you know, oh, this is my soulmate, this is my ideal situation, or we could be projecting a fear, like he's gonna hurt me like he did in the past, or like a previous person did to me in the past. And it can be very hard in relationships to see someone clearly. And again, it doesn't have to be a romantic relationship. You know, I think most people don't realize, they think that they're able to see people and see reality clearly, but they don't understand that their vision, the glasses that they have on, that they move through life with, those glasses, the prescription that they have is created based on all of their past experiences. So, you know, when you're fighting with your husband, for example, you're fighting with your husband, but you're also fighting with your dad, you know, or you're fighting with your mom, or you're fighting with your ex-husband. You know, it's like we carry all of these projections, all of this baggage from previous experience. It doesn't mean you don't have a valid point in the argument with the person, but our perspectives are always colored by these past experiences. So in relationship to this, just making sure, you know, are you seeing this clearly, or are you projecting something, whether it's a desire and sometimes we can project ideals, an ideal kind of image of a partner that doesn't really exist. I've done this myself in relationships where it's like I see like the potential of a person, or I see like their best self, but then they're not really living that way. But I'm holding on to, I did that in one long-term relationship, holding on to this, ideal of this person that wasn't really how they were living. And so we can do that too. So just looking out. I'm not saying you're doing that, but just looking out for that. So let's pull an oracle card here for this one. The hidden. So again, okay, this kind of confirms a little suspicion that I have here with the King of Swords and the Seven of Swords. What is not being seen here? Is there something that you know on some level that there's something that you're maybe not being honest with yourself about this situation? And my guess is that a lot of people will hear this listening as there's something nefarious about Jarrett, and I'm not necessarily saying that. The hidden piece could be that you're not seeing something about him clearly, yes. And it can also be you're not seeing something about your own self clearly in this situation, the way that you're relating to it. You might have some kind of skewed perspective about the situation. So I would just really, spend some time thinking about, reflecting, are there blind spots that I have around this? Are there things that I'm not seeing clearly? Be on the lookout for it. It's kind of stupid advice for me to give in a way, because it's so hard to do it, to see things clearly when you are not seeing things clearly. It's like telling someone who can't speak Spanish to just speak Spanish, like just do it. You have to study it and figure it out, right? So it may just take some time to see that. And then again, we have that Six of Pentacles there. So thinking about, what's the karmic things being worked out here? Even in bad relationships, in my experience, I always learn something from it. Bad relationships, whether it's, friendship or romantic relationship or work relationship or family relationship. Bad meaning it's not something I would ever want to repeat, but there's something that I learned about it, like, oh wow, I was really working through my mom's stuff with that friendship there, or I was really working through that feeling of unlovability with that relationship there, or, So there's always something to be worked out, but I wish you the best in that relationship, whatever may be. The other thing too is that a lot of times be on the lookout too for resistance to hearing this, especially for Jennifer. If you're like, oh, Kathryn just doesn't understand, that might be a bad sign. That might be some resistance that you have to hearing the truth about something. I've done that with people with readings. I've probably given this example on the show before, but I had a friend who was in a relationship with a really emotionally, mentally unwell, abusive person. And I was giving readings to him during that period, and there would be these cards. At the time I was using the Aleister Crowley deck, which the cards in that deck have names like cruelty, and it's a deck that I don't like to do for readings anymore, because there's you can project a lot onto it. But anyway, I was pulling cards for him, like cruelty was one of them. I remember there was like a couple others that I would pull these sort of cards, and I'd be like, I don't think that this is a great dynamic that you guys have. And he was so intent on holding on to the relationship that it was like, no, this just means that she's challenging me and this is good. And denial is powerful force. So, all right, let's hear from our next caller.
Hi, Kathryn. I'm calling in about a tension that I'm feeling uncertainty around. I moved up to be with a partner into the community and where he has a piece of land that he owns and is working on a long-term project. And I love him and wanting to build a life with him. And I'm also finding myself running into feelings of just discontentment and not feeling like I'm getting my needs met in this much smaller community and different lifestyle than I'm used to and have previously been able to thrive in. I have much more of a impulse towards urban settings and more stimulation, and I historically have been someone that moves quite a bit, and that has made me question some of my feelings and impulses, and don't always trust that they're genuine, and wonder if they're coping mechanisms that I have been trying to address differently. There's certain communities I have that are wanting to build a long-term vision, and I feel very conflicted between digging my heels in here and trying to figure out if I can get this lifestyle to fit my needs and to find satisfaction through devotion and time, or if I need to pivot and listen to these internal feelings and go into a community where I know I feel a sense of belonging and satisfaction. This is where I would love to get some guidance.
Okay, caller. So, just to kind of summarize or reiterate what I am hearing here, is that you're living in a place, it seems like there's just a lot of uncertainty about life choices at this time. I could go into all the specifics of what you said, but it seems like the overall sort of feeling is like, I don't know if I'm in the right community, in the right area of the country, and even to some extent it sounds like the relationship, like there's just, feels like there's a feeling of like ungroundedness, uncertainty, and maybe, what's the word? I don't know if discombobulation is quite the right word, but disjointedness, something like that. So let's see what we have for you around this. I'm thinking about getting a new tablecloth, by the way. I want to get a new tablecloth for the table here. I was looking on Etsy at vintage lace tablecloths. I don't know, what do you guys think? What color do you think would look good? I'm kind of leaning towards white. This tablecloth's fine, but I don't know. What do you guys think? There's a lot of cool old tablecloths on Etsy, like lace. Lace is amazing. It's an amazing thing. All right, let's see what we have for you. Okay. So we have 5 of Cups, the Knight of Swords, and the 5 of Wands. Okay, so it feels like right away it's just like, oh, you just gotta make a decision here. The feelings of uncertainty. So 5 of Cups, when I see that card come up, one of the words that I associate it with is disappointment. And I always think with the 5 of Cups, I think about how it's portrayed in the Rider-Waite-Coleman-Smith deck. And so you'll see, I'll show this here. You'll see that in this deck, this man looks very forlorn, very sad about his spilled cup. What he doesn't notice, and if memory serves me right, that there's 3 full cups behind him. So he has 2 spilled cups, but he's got 3 full cups behind him. And even there's a river there too. So if he wanted to refill his 2 spilled cups, he could just go do that. And so when I see the 5 of Cups come up, to me, what comes to mind is a like negativity bias. So do you have a tendency to focus on what's wrong instead of what's right? What's going wrong instead of what's going right? This is like almost everybody has this. The happiest people that you know are the ones that don't have this. They're the ones that are not focused on like the problems, on what's wrong. And focusing on the problems, focusing on what's not going right, guess where that originates from? Childhood trauma. So, because if you're at some point in your life constantly disappointed, something's going wrong, you have to, as a coping mechanism, as a defense mechanism, it's like, let me try to find what could possibly go wrong so that I'm prepared. And that's smart to some extent, sure, to look for potential problems, but people will just kind of get bogged down by it, into these circular kind of thinking patterns, revisiting the same sort of fears and worries again and again that aren't necessarily even based in reality. So just looking at, what's my relationship to pessimism, optimism? Look up the term negativity bias. It's just a term that's exactly what it sounds like, that, as humans, we have a tendency to focus on what's wrong. So this is another thing. Psychology is interesting too, because all of our studies of psychology are on a population that's traumatized on like a mass scale. Like we're all what do you call, not the ancestor, but the children of what do you call not the young ancestors? We're all those people. We're all the children of ancestors who were enslaved, or who were at war, or who were exiled from their homelands, and I guess that's in America, that's the case for the most part. But I'm sure it's true basically everywhere. We're in a very kind of degraded time on the planet where very few people grow up in a healthy lineage, a healthy family. So that's the population that we study, and then it's human nature to have a negativity bias. It's scientific. It's it's a survival mechanism, a survival instinct. But then I'm like, or it's just that everybody has that same sort of, or similar versions of passed down traumas. So taking a little peek at that with the Knight of Swords, that's where I was like, you just got to make a decision. With the Knight of Swords, swords are representative of the way that we think, and the Knight of Swords, is moving out in the world, and he's in this reading, it's like making decisions. So just getting into touch with what you really want, like what you truly want, not what the mind fears, not what the mind desires, but what you as a being truly want. Again, not what your mind fears, not what your mind desires, but what you as a being truly need. It's like in the last episode we talked about being in touch with your path. It's like that. So you're in this place of making a lot of big life decisions, and you know, for me, any major life decision that I made intuitively has always worked out. Even if, you know, at the time, like right now I live in Iowa. So I was born in New York City. I've lived in pretty densely populated areas my whole life. I'm living in a teeny tiny town in Iowa. Nothing really going on here, but I had an intuition to come here, and it's been very fruitful in a lot of ways. But if my mind was making that decision, it would be like, oh no, I'm not going to Iowa. I'm not moving to a tiny town in Iowa. The mind is a great tool. It's good to have logic. It's good to have reason. It's good to have clarity of mind. But the mind fears, the mind desires, the mind doesn't always make the best decisions. So, you know, make these decisions from that deeper place within yourself. You could say you're intuitive, your gut, your heart, you know. People will use different language to describe basically the same thing. And then we have the Five of Wands, which that's just, I think, just the feeling of conflict. It's interesting to have the two fives here. Fives can be kind of difficult cards in the suits. They don't have to be, but a lot of times they are. Just because of, like, again, the state of the world and the state of everybody's kind of state. So with the Five of Wands, there just might be, your energies are moving in different ways. Like, you might feel like you have different desires, different passions, and that can be kind of confusing in this scenario. So again, I would just, do you have a strong connection to your intuition? Do you have the ability to use that intuition? If so, then do that. If not, if you don't trust your intuition, then, you know, get a tarot reading. Give a reading to yourself. Sometimes when I'm having a hard time thinking clearly because my mind is too activated, because my emotions are too activated around something and I can't hear my intuition, I don't trust my intuition enough. That happens less and less over time. But I would do something like, I would be like, okay, I'm going to pull one card for yes, one card, you know, one card for I stay in this community, one card for I move to a different city, and then just see, like, you know, what are the, actually what I would do is I would say pro for staying in this community, con for staying in this community, pro for leaving, con for leaving. And, you know, that can be sometimes helpful for making decisions like that. It can just help you get more in touch with your intuition. So if you have a deck at home, you might try doing that. Or you can just, you know, when I ask you right now, what is it that you want? First thought, what's the first thought that comes to mind? Very first. First thought, best thought. Not the second thought, not the mind that comes in later and says, well, I don't know. But what about this? But what about that? What's the mind? What's the intuition tell you? First thought. So let's pull an oracle card here for some guidance with these themes. Spirit. So this card feels like it's, again, just reiterating this, following the intuition. But with the Spirit card, it's like there's another layer to it of, what's your relationship like to your spiritual life at this time? That may need to be strengthened. in order to hear the intuition more clearly, to hear it better. So, okay, caller, that's what I have for you. I think we've all been there, right? You know, where there's just this uncertainty of the path in life. There's a lot of potential, a lot of possibilities. You see the pros and cons about different things. Just unclear, uncertain, but the intuition, that always knows. That part of us always knows. All right, so let's hear from our last caller today.
Hi, Kathryn. I wanted to call for some career guidance. I'm 34 years old, and I've been in the hospitality service industry for most of my career, from serving to cooking and managing. Currently, my partner and I own a pop-up food business that is at a crossroads. We've been in business for about 2 years, and I can feel that the business wants to grow, as there's been a higher demand for it. Naturally, committing to a brick and mortar seems to be the next step. However, I'm finding that it does take a lot out of me, physically, mentally, emotionally, and while I enjoy serving people, I'm not sure that I could continue long term without feeling resentful or wondering if there's something else out there for me. It feels like there's this expectation for me to continue to cook, as I do have a gift for it, and people appreciate it. Still, I've noticed my passion for cooking for others has been waning over time. Lately, I've been toying with the idea of studying Reiki and energy work. I've always been interested in the metaphysical and the magical, and want to finally come out of the esoteric closet. Yet, for some reason, it still feels scary to be seen beyond the conventional lens. I feel like all the things I do enjoy about being a chef, serving others and establishing a meaningful connection, could still be found in this line of work. The only thing I'm not sure is if this desire to change career comes from fear, the fear of getting more success in the food industry, which tells me I need to work harder or do more, or fear of missing out on the unknown. It could very well be both. But when I feel deeply into it, I'm finding that while the unknown feels scary, there's also curiosity and excitement. Anyway, any insight or guidance would be so appreciated. Thank you for all that you do. Bye.
Thank you, caller. Really well articulated question, by the way. Like at the end there, what did you say? Unknown feels scary, but there's curiosity and excitement. Okay. All right, great. So let's shuffle these cards. So I know I've said this a few times in previous episodes, but I'm not the practical one. I'm not the one to come to when you want practical advice about career and really anything in life. I have a lot of Aries in my chart. I had to work with some of the shadow of that in my life, of like, just burn it all down, like do something different. But that's, you know what, that's not always the best course of action. I don't think I really have that problem anymore. Now I hope it's more of a gift now. Fearlessness. So let's see what we have for you. Okay. 3 of Wands, 3 Three of Cups and Eight of Cups. Okay, so right away, when I see the Three of Wands come up, this card came up for me a lot in my life. I think this came up in an episode, a few episodes ago. I shared about this, but I'm going to say it again. When I was going through my Saturn return, I had the Two of Wands and the Three of Wands showing up all the time. And I really associate those cards with times in life when we are contemplating the future. We're thinking about how do we want to use our life force? How do we want to use our energy in our lives, use our energy in our worlds? So this is a time for you to think about that. I don't see a lot of cards that are like, take action now. It feels like this is a good time to reflect and check in with like, what do you really want your life to look like? What do you really want to be doing? And this is a theme that's come up in a lot of our readings. And again, I'm going to say it again, but connect with your path, the path that you came in with, the map of who you are. So a lot of advice and a lot of things that people say about finding what you want to do in life, it's all coming from the mind, of like, okay, well, what job can I do that will, be stable, be secure, see, again, I'm sorry, I'm not, I'm not the practical advice person, but, I think that if you can connect with your path, Michael Meade is an interesting guy to look into this. He talks about the genius myth. And the way that he describes it is, we're all born with a genius, like something that we've come into this world to do. But then through different life experiences, through the way that our world is, we're pulled away from our genius. We're pulled away from what we're supposed to be doing and corralled into these like little boxes on the hillside. Little boxes made of ticky-tacky. But that genius within you is still there. And that's what I'm really like thinking about when I'm saying like connecting with your path. And so, and again, all these cards here, they're not like make a decision now. These are all feel like take your time, like explore, investigate, take Reiki level 1, see what that feels like. It's not a huge commitment to do that. It's not, usually it's not a huge like time or financial commitment usually. And, find someone that teaches it that you like though, because it's not there's people that are like amazing at Reiki, that are really good at it and can teach it really well. And there are people that are not very good at it. And who maybe don't even have like that strong of a connection to that energy. I don't know. This is the case with like all jobs, right? There's people that are really good at it and people that are not so good at it. So if you can find someone who's on the end of the spectrum of being pretty good at it, then, you'll be better off. But try things out. You sounds like you're in a pretty cool situation in a certain way. You're 34 and you own your own business. Like that's pretty cool. And you're good at cooking, you're good at feeding people. So unless it's like really burning you out, really draining you completely, and you need to step away from it, you might as well keep working there, supporting yourself and use free time to go explore other things. If you don't have free time, are you able to hire someone to take over some of your tasks? As someone who's also runs their own business, I've never been able to hire someone to do anything because I'm like, it's mine, I don't even know what I would. Anyway, it's different, I think, that's what I tell myself anyway. What I'm doing, I can't hire somebody. I don't even have the money to hire somebody though, to be honest, but yeah. it makes me think too of, what was Ram Dass's teacher's name? Neem Karoli Baba. There's a story like one time Ram Dass asked him, I think he asked, how do I become enlightened? And Neem Karoli Baba said, I think he said, love people and feed them, something like that. And when you're talking too about like Reiki and food, and there's such a difference between food that's made by like, I can feel it when I go out. I rarely go out to eat anymore for a lot of reasons. But one is that like I can feel like, this person cooking it is like miserable and they're stressed and they're angry, and I can like feel it in the food. I don't want to eat that. Anyway, okay. And then I haven't even. 8 of Cups is another. 8 of Cups, when I see that card come up, I think about, cups are related to our emotions. And so when I see the 8 of Cups, I think about doing some sort of inwards exploration. So not only, you have this invitation with the 3 of Wands to envision your future, to think about what kind of future do you want for yourself. But the 8 of Cups brings in this other quality of self-exploration. Like what are, and you even, you're already doing this, because you're asking, what did you say here? You said that, you're wondering do you have fear of getting more successful, or fear of missing out on the unknown? So exploring those kind of like, well, what are my fears? What are my desires here? The 8 of Cups. The 8 of Cups can also indicate, that's another one where I'm like, I don't feel like this is like a rush job. It's not, what do they say? On the fly. It's not, getting it on the fly. It's like, you're going to take your time with this one. And then the 3 of Cups is just a really sweet one to have in the center here, kind of tying it all together. When I see the 3 of Cups, I see this celebration of life, this enjoyment of the pleasures of life. So just in the meantime, while you're figuring things out, while you're doing exploration within yourself, don't stress too much about it if you can, and just try to enjoy what's already here. Like again, you're in a cool position. I'm sure there's so many people listening to this that are like, I wish I owned my own pop-up food business. That sounds so cool. And again, I don't know if you're super burnt out. I don't know if you're like, this is really draining you, but if that's not the case, then just enjoying what's here in your life, and enjoying what you do have, even if it's not exactly how you envisioned it, or you're just uncertain. It's just exploration time. You might not want to hear that. You might want to get out of this. A lot of times it can feel like that, where it's like the discomfort of the unknown. It's just like, get me out of here. Let me get out of here. But sometimes we just gotta hang. We just gotta hang out for a bit. So let's get an oracle card in here. Ooh. Okay. Sageness. So bringing in the elder within, the sage within. When I see this card, again, I'm thinking about taking things slowly, moving intentionally. It doesn't actually have to be slowly, I will say, but it has to be intentional. Don't rush the process. Okay, caller. That's what I have for you for this reading. I feel optimistic for you. I feel like, I don't know, you have a really sweet energy too in the call. I feel like you'll figure it out. All right. So, before we close our episode today, let's pull a card of the day. And by the way, if I also have a quote of the day at the end of every episode, so be sure to stick around for those little gems. Doing this show has made me want to learn different types of fancy shuffling. I might have to start. I don't even know what it would look like. I've never really seen fancy shuffling, but I know it exists. Whoops. All right, Tower card. Bam. Okay. We've pulled a lot of Major Arcana's cards for our cards of the day, which is interesting. The Major Arcana, to me, has to do with bigger themes, and so it's interesting to have so many of our cards of the day on the show so far be in the Major Arcana, the Tower being one of them. So the Tower card just indicates that there's some sort of change going on right now. You may be undergoing a change already, but if not, is there some sort of sense of self, some sort of sense of identity that you have that's ready to be transformed? Do you look at yourself? Do you think about yourself in a certain way? And as you hear me saying these words, there's a part of you that knows, oh yeah, that part, I'm ready to let that go. I'm ready to change that. I'm ready to shift that. I'm ready to change that story. I'm ready to shift that sense of identity, that sense of self, into something more fitting for where I am now. The Tower card's a card that a lot of people fear in the deck, but it's just change, and it says a lot about how people feel about change, that this card gets such a bad reputation. It's just that people are afraid of change, but if you don't resist the change that naturally wants to happen, it's not that painful, If you're ready for the change, then it's easy, but sometimes there's changes that you're not really ready for, and sometimes resisting it is part of the process. Right? Sometimes we have to learn through, burning ourselves, that we can't hold on to the hot coal. So, all right, everybody. That's what I've got for today. Thanks for tuning in. I've been having so much fun doing this show. I don't know what's gonna come of it. I don't know. I'm not making any money doing this at all. But I felt really called to do this, so I hope you guys are enjoying it too. And if you are, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't yet. Like these videos, leave a comment if you feel so inspired, and spread the word. If you ever meet someone who's having a problem, tell them to call in. I need more people calling in. I said this in the last episode, but the number of calls coming in has gone down a lot since since I first launched it, and I'd like to keep recording episodes, so help out the show by giving it a call. And a new round of the Poisonous Plant Medicine course is beginning September 22nd. It's a really cool course that I teach. I teach it. Okay. It said my storage is low, so I'm just going to close the show as quickly as I can and see if I can fit it in. Okay, Poisonous Plant Medicine course starting September 22nd. Awesome stuff. Sign up. You won't regret it. If you want to learn about tarot, on my Patreon, $5 a month. Lots and lots of classes, like 30 plus hours of videos about how to learn tarot, about the Major Arcana. I'm putting out classes now about the suits. Having a lot of fun doing that. I sell essences on my website, flower essences and necklaces like this one that I make on my website, energetic, intuitive inspired necklaces. Follow me on TikTok, on Instagram, and subscribe, like, comment, share this, blah, 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 all that stuff. Keep calling in, and Lots of love to you all. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for being a part of this, and I will see you next week. Bye.